Welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. This is the final training portion of G4G 2021. This is a new training session for me. We've never done this one before, and this is going to focus on donor development and what to do after G4G, which is something that we don't often talk about, but it's such an important thing to plan for and be ready for as soon as G4G is over. So today we're going to be talking about what donor data is available to you through the G4G platform, what you should be doing with that data, and then also making a plan for donor development after G4G is over, preparing for the next year, but also stewarding donors into your other fundraising programs, and then also transitioning your G4G profile to a year-round resource. And then at the end, we're going to be able to unmute and have a Q&A session with everyone. But if you do have any questions in the meantime, please drop them in the chat box. I'm going to make sure I can see the chat as well. So if you have anything, I try to address those as we're going. So please drop that in the chat box and I'll check it pretty frequently. Other trainings and resources that we have, like I said, this is the last one. So all of the recordings are available on the resources page. This one will be up, if not this afternoon, on Monday morning. So please go ahead and watch those. We have everything from how to log in and build your profile up through what to do after Gives Day, peer-to-peer fundraising, digital advertising and social media, a lot of great materials out there. There are also graphics and marketing resources. I'm starting to see several of y'all use them on social media. So shout out to everybody who has downloaded those. There are Facebook cover photos, Instagram templates, customizable email banners, and Facebook graphics that you can drop the name of your organization or your logo into. So please utilize those. They're there for you to use. And then special advertising rates from our partners on digital advertising, print materials, ads in the forum, and then information on how to get involved with the KTBS morning show. And then also I email you guys pretty much on a weekly basis now, so please add us to your contacts. I also link all of the emails to the resources page if you have anybody that's not on our email list, but you have staff members or volunteers that need access to that information. It is all linked there. Some basic rules and reminders, which I go over in the first training, so I'm going to breeze through them here. We are raising unrestricted dollars through G4G, so donors cannot designate where they would like their dollars to go at the time of giving. You will receive one check for general operating support from the Community Foundation after G4G. No benefits can be received from donations, so no tournament fees, event tickets, sponsorships, memberships, or anything like that stipulated by the donation. And then do not send a tax receipt or acknowledgement letter after the donation. We take care of all of that, so we want to make sure that nobody's doubling up on the tax receipts. And then if you are hosting an event this year, we have some very specific guidelines related to COVID restrictions for 2021. So please check those out on the resources page. We do require that if you're hosting an event that you put it on the event section of your profile, and also if it's an in-person event, provide us with insurance. And the deadline for that is coming up on April 19th. So just make sure you're aware of that if you're planning something. What's new in 2021, you've probably noticed by now, but CiviCorps is now called Neon One. So if you receive emails from the G4G system, that technology partner is called Neon One. So it'll come from a Neon One email address a lot of the times, like if you reset your password. We have volunteer and event search pages now, which we're going to talk about later on today in this training. There's a new needs tab where you can request in-kind donations. Point of sale technology, I am hoping to have all of that information finalized and out to you guys next week. I'm working with Neon One, since it's a new technology for them as well, to get all of the instructions to you in one good packet, so I don't give it to you piecemeal. So next week, I should have information on how to order the card readers and exactly what the instructions are to utilize the card readers to take donations through G4G. And reminder, early giving is real this year. So on April 20th, everything is going to be open and we can accept donations in real time, which is about 2.5 weeks away. So we're really excited about that. Also new this year, we have yard signs. Something that we would love to see is just the town painted with yard signs, or sprinkled, if you'd like to think, with yard signs. As somebody pointed out to me, I've always called that graphic confetti, but they are sprinkles. I think now there's hot debate. You can let me know what your opinion on that is in the chat if you'd like to. But we have yard signs to where you can have them for your facility saying support us during G4G. They have the dates on them. So if you order them in bulk this year, we will be providing stickers next year for a much lower price where you can just order it that'll match the color and you can put it over the dates for next year. So if you want to order in bulk this year and keep adding the stickers year over year, you can do that. And then also it is a great piece of content if you don't have a facility or you don't want to use it as a yard sign, to just have people post with the yard signs, take pictures and share them on your social media page. So it's a really great content piece. Same thing with the shirts and the I gave stickers. We have these available in our office. The shirts are $10 a piece, but the stickers are free if you want to come pick up a bundle of them. These are great. The stickers are great not only to give out if you're having an event, but again, for that content. Post pictures of somebody with the sticker, share it on social media, put it on all of your channels and your emails. It's just a really easy thing to take a picture of and post, easy free content. So just email us if you want to pick some of those up. Some important dates: now through May 3rd, the peer-to-peer fundraising pages are open for creation. We talked about that in last week's training, and now we have flyers and a full page up on the website if you want to direct donors there that has step-by-step instructions on creating a fundraising page for you. That's going to close May 3rd, which is the day before Give for Good. April 19th is the last day to make changes to your profile. It's also the last day to submit event information and insurance documents. And then on April 20th, which is 2 weeks from this upcoming Tuesday, online giving begins. And then we're really coming close to May 4th, which is actual Give for Good Day. So getting really down to the wire here, and I'm excited. So first up on today's docket, using your Give for Good donor data. I cannot stress enough how important it is to log into your profile on the back end after Give for Good and glean all of that data and really utilize it when you're going forward with your development strategies for your organization. I can see, not that I don't really creep on anybody with this, but I can see who logs in after Give for Good or how long it's been since you've logged in. And there are so many organizations that are not logging in after the day of and looking at their donors. So I highly, highly recommend looking at that information. So what is available? You get the donors' names, addresses, phone numbers, emails, and their donation amount. Something that we've had in previous years that is usually there, I'm working with Neon One now that the platform has switched to make sure that you guys can still see it, is if a donor has said that they are a new donor to your organization, that information will show there. And also if they've indicated that they are willing to volunteer for your organization, that information will show there as well. You can also see gifts that are made from the Community Foundation donor advised funds. So if you're not aware, donors can hold funds at the Community Foundation, and then they can direct those. It's kind of like a charitable bank account. They can direct those funds to you guys through Give for Good. So we've sent letters out to all of our donor advised fund holders to let them know who is participating and if they would like to direct those funds. So if you see anything that comes from, the Smith Family Donor Advised Fund, then you'll see those there as well. You'll have all transaction information since 2017 because that's how long we've been with the Neon One system. So you can see all of that and compare data year over year, but make sure that you're filtering your results when looking at 2021, because if you just export it without any parameters, you're going to get 4 or 5 years of data there. So you want to make sure that you're looking at just this year's information. So make sure you turn those filters on. And then donors who choose to remain anonymous will display only the donation amount, and you'll have an anonymous in the name. So donors do have the option to remain anonymous when giving to you through Give for Good. So this is kind of what the page is going to look like. You can see this is under the donation information tab when you're logged into the back end. At the top right corner, you'll see the export button. That is going to export everything from 2017 on, unless you use the filters here at the top. So under transaction date and time, you can set if you want to just see Give for Good Day, if you want to see the 2-week period from any year, only after a certain day. There are a lot of different filters that you can use there. You can filter by name if you want to see all of the historical data for one particular person or family. And then you can also filter by amount. And so you can use those filters and then export as well to only get the data that you really want to see. And it also shows up on the online page as well. I just cut off, donor information because that's very private. And then also you'll see there are sort buttons next to each column. So for example, if you hit the little arrows next to amount, it'll sort by ascending and then descending order if you want to sort things out to look by them. So there's some really great resources there. And again, make sure that you're logging in after Gift for Good is over to export all this data and take a look at it. So what do you want to do with the data after it's done? So you have all of these great things and you think, what do I do now? The most important thing is to analyze the data and then divide your donors up into segments. So if you're not segmenting your donors and really all of your communication channels so far, that's a really important step to make sure that you're reaching people the way that they want to be communicated with, but also in a more effective way for your organizations. So you can import these contacts into your database if you have a CRM database that you're using already. If you're using any sort of communication channels such as MailChimp or Constant Contact, you want to make sure you're importing those email addresses into there as well, so that you're adding all of these people that are participating in Gift for Good to your communication channels, and so that you're developing a relationship with them. When you're segmenting your donors, you can really do it in a variety of ways, and people can belong to more than one segment. So you can base them on donation size. If you have people who are more at a membership level versus, a legacy gift or a planned giving gift, you can sort them by their donation amounts. Communication preferences, if you have people that really love to receive actual mail, then make sure you put them in that category. If you have people that prefer email, make sure you're sending them emails. You can also sort them by age if you have different events that you think will appeal to different age ranges, interests, and so on and so forth, whatever works best for your organizations. And then also identify key donors that you want to make a development plan for. So you might have some people who are either new to your organization that you've been trying to get as a donor for a while, and now you've had some engagement with them, and so you want to develop a relationship, or you have longtime donors that you want to move to a bigger level with your fundraising plan. So you want to identify the key donors from your Gift for Good donors and see how these Gift for Good interactions can help you in your development strategy. You can also compare all of the data to previous years to see who is new. Maybe somebody has lapsed in their donations, and so you want to make it a point the following year to reach out and say, hey, we've missed you. Here's a reminder about Gift for Good for next year. And then also you can look and see if anybody has steadily been increasing their donation amount year over year. So if that's the case, then you can also send them a personalized email or mail, however you would like to communicate with them in future years, and say, hey, thank you so much for donating X amount last year. Would you consider increasing your donation to X amount this year for Gift for Good? Or if you have some sort of membership plan at your organization, you can say, thank you so much for donating to Gift for Good in this amount. It's similar to the amount that it costs to become a member here. Would you like to pledge to become a member for the next, 5 years to our organization by saying that you're going to donate this amount year over year? So that's really good information to look at when you're looking at the data. So when we talk about strategic donor development, there's some tools that we can use in the short, medium, and long term to create a relationship with these donors by using the Gift for Good data. So in the short term, which is right after, I consider the short term to be kind of right after Gift for Good, in the weeks and months after that. Immediately, you want to send a thank you note, again, not a receipt, because we issue all of the receipts for you. There are organizations I see that send a thank you within an hour of a donation. They'll export all of their donors for that hour out every single hour on Gift for Good Day and send those donors emails. Definitely the next day is a great way. We send the Community Foundation donors, we send everybody who has donated through Gift for Good a thank you email the absolute next day. So we just export those immediately after midnight. And then use the segments as you're analyzing your data to determine a thank you type. I've donated to an organization before, and then the executive director called me the very next day, which really stuck with me because it stood out, because based on the amount that they usually raise during Gift for Good, I didn't think my donation significant. However, getting a personal phone call from a staff member there really touched me and made me consider becoming a long-term donor or be connected with that organization in a different way. So you can send emails if you have plenty of staff members and volunteers that are willing to help you. A handwritten thank you note always goes a long way. And again, phone calls also kind of really stand out because not a lot of organizations do that. So that's really important to do, I would say, within the week following Gift for Good. Reach out to your donors and share your success and impact. Sorry, cannot talk today. So you want to share the collective impact that your donors made on Gift for Good Day to show what what you're doing with the dollars that you've raised through Give for Good. So you can reach out and say, together we've all raised $5,000, and that $5,000 directly transitions into feeding 100 families for an entire year, or whatever it is that it equals for your organization. Because somebody may have only given $10 to your organization, but when they can see the collective impact that they've had for the community, it really sticks with them, and you create that emotional connection with your organization. So again, show donors how their dollars are being used and tell them what you intend to do with the dollars that you've raised through Give for Good. Also, now is a great time that you have their attention from Give for Good to share upcoming dates or needs. So you can say, thank you so much for giving through Give for Good. Don't forget that our coat drive is next month. Don't forget that our 5K is in 2 months. Whatever it is you have coming up, you want to give them that bit of information that is going to transition or steward them to the next pieces of information, so that you're keeping them constantly engaged throughout the year. Because what you don't want to do is only reach out to people when you need money or when you need Give for Good or donation. So you want to be reaching out to people more than once or twice a year. You want to consistently be stewarding them from one phase of your organization to the next. So in the medium term, this really means medium and long term can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different organizations. For some organizations, long term might be getting people donating the next year through Give for Good. So long term would be 1 year for you. For a lot of larger organizations, you're thinking about legacy or planned giving. And so that long term could mean 5 to 10 years for you. So medium and long term can mean different things for different organizations. But you want to look back at those segments that you've already analyzed through Give for Good, and you want to make a development plan for each section. And so if you've divided them into groups, each group may have different goals. So if you have a group or a segment that's made up of mainly smaller donors and maybe they're younger, these could be people that you're either interested in getting into the lower levels of your membership plan, or that you're interested in having them become volunteers so that they can be even more engaged with your organization, in the hopes that they will become larger donors or even board members over time. And then other segments, if they're older, or maybe if it's larger gifts, you're stewarding them to the next donation level, or you have a very specific ask if you're trying to get them into your legacy society or planned giving. So use those segments that you used from the data to create a goal and a plan for each segment, if not each individual donor or the key donors that you've identified. So in the medium term, you also want to keep consistent communication. Again, don't reach out to donors only when you need money for them or when you're having a fundraiser coming up. So your engagement should be very informative. Let them know how you're consistently being good stewards of the donations that they've made to your organization, and also give them opportunities to engage with you through events and volunteer opportunities. And then when you do have fundraisers coming up, they're already accustomed to receiving communications from you. So consistent communication does not necessarily mean constant. There are different intervals that are best for each segment sometimes, or for your organization. For example, the Community Foundation, we have our e-newsletter goes out to our broadest network. So we have about 13,000 people in our email database right now, and we've decided we're going to email them the first Monday of every month, so that our donors and our audience know that is when the e-newsletters are coming. And then we have a quarterly print newsletter, since the print is a little bit more pricey, that goes to a smaller segment of donors at a higher level that receive the print materials quarterly. So it doesn't have to be constant or all the time. It can be in an interval that works for your budget and the time that your staff has to devote to it, but you want to make sure that it's consistent, so you're setting expectations of what the donors and your clients and your volunteers expect to hear from you throughout the year. And that goes right along with creating a content calendar. So if you can, I know that it's a lot to ask of organizations, particularly if you're a one-person volunteer operation. I totally get it. But making a content calendar really helps you to lay out what the communication strategy is going to look like for your donors throughout the year. So say that you've decided to go with the monthly plan, and you're going to send out one email to your entire audience per month. Well, then if you look at the calendar for the year, you can say, okay, where our April and our May email are going to be very Give for Good centric. We also have a big fundraiser in November. So October and November are going to be about this fundraiser. Most of our, we have an after school program that kicks off in September. So September is going to be all about client success stories. And maybe you have a graduation for your clients at the end of the year or in the summer as well. And so you're sharing success stories then. So you can really vary the content that you're delivering to your donors, and then also the asks that you're making. And when you look at it all on a calendar and a spreadsheet, you can really see, okay, well, we're asking them for donations 4 months back to back right here. We need to slow down and make it more educational and informational after that. Utilize your segments, again, that you've analyzed with how people want to receive communications and also the types of communications that you want to give them. You can be very targeted and specific about that. And then again, like I said, not all conversations should involve money. It's all about creating a relationship. So educating donors on the good work that your organization is doing, events and other engagement opportunities that you have coming up. And then when you do ask for donations, you've developed a meaningful relationship or have begun to develop a meaningful relationship with them. So moving on to the long term, the key donors that you've identified from either your Give for Good data that you have on your Give for Good profile, or if you have a database already of key donors that you've identified, you want to carry out the relationship strategies and the goals that you've set forth for those individuals or those segments. So really think about, what are you doing to engage these donors in a meaningful way? So if you're, say they're part of your targeted segment that receives mail, so they're used to receiving a mail newsletter from you. So maybe when you make a donation ask, you send it via mail, or you want to be a little bit more targeted with it. So you ask a donor to coffee or to lunch or do a phone call with them. And so you want to make sure that you're developing that relationship, not only when you're making asks for development, but also that you're getting to know them and what their interests are. If they're a new donor to you, maybe you don't know that they have donated to your organization because they have a loved one with special needs. And that's where your organization excels and what your programming is geared toward. So really getting to know the donors, doing your research on them, having conversations about why they're interested in your organization and what you can do to continue to engage them in a meaningful way. Being genuine and authentic goes a really long way. So I would really recommend, again, going back to those segments and the key donors and looking at what you're doing to reach the goals for each person. Continue adding to your lists and your segments by utilizing your year-over-year Give for Good data. So if your long-term is 5 to 10 years, making sure that you're going back year over year and seeing if your strategies are working, how you can tweak your strategies, if people are increasing their donation size year over year, are they lapsing? Are you reaching the goals that you intended for them, and things like that, so that you're really looking at those metrics to seeing how you're stacking up. Also, looking at donor trends and history. It's very important if you're trying to do that you keep good records. That's why I recommend, if you have some sort of database and people donate to you or volunteer with you or attend events outside of Give for Good, that you're keeping track of that somewhere outside of the Give for Good database. And so that way you can see, say somebody gave $2,000 to you at a fundraiser that you held in March. And then if you wanted to turn around and ask them for dollars during Give for Good, they might say, I just gave you $2,000 last month, and now you're asking for more donations from me again. So you want to make sure you're being really strategic about not hitting the donors too much for your asks, but also making sure that you're hitting them enough and engaging with them in an appropriate manner. Sorry, somebody walked in the door and it distracted me. So when it's time and you've developed that meaningful relationship, you have an ongoing relationship with that donor, then it's time to ask them for what you're looking for. And so it's, again, being genuine and authentic and upfront with your donors or your clients is really what we're going for here. And I understand that making the ask can be very tough, but a lot of the times you never know what the reception is going to be until you ask. And then the ask doesn't necessarily have to be about a large gift or large planned giving. It can also be somebody that you've been stewarding into being your board member, somebody that you want to chair a committee or an event for your organization, or like I said, making a larger gift or planned giving over the next 5 years. So after you have that relationship, you know what the donor is looking for, you know what they're passionate about, where their interests lie, and going ahead and saying, this is how you can, these are our needs for our organization. This is how we think you can help us. Are you interested in this? I think Susan Reeks from CATA put it best in one of our trainings from a few weeks ago. She said, she received a donation from somebody to her campaign, and they said, you were the only group that I gave through for Give for Good. And Susan asked them, well, why is that? And she said, because you're the only one that reached out and asked, even though they were aware of several organizations participating in Give for Good. So again, the worst that can happen is that somebody says no and that you continue to build those relationships. And the best thing that can happen is that they say yes and they become either a longtime donor, a board member, or a supporter of your organization, and then also utilize their networks to, keep growing your donor base and your donations. So does anybody have any questions so far? Again, you can drop them in the chat if you have any questions, but I'm also going to speak briefly about transitioning your Give for Good profile to a year-round resource. So Give for Good is up year-round. Traditionally, we haven't really thought about it much outside of the 1 month to 2 weeks that the giving window happens, but the website is available year-round, and the plan is for the Community Foundation to continue marketing this as a resource to the community all the time. That was our plan last year. However, COVID really threw us for a loop there. And so, but we will be directing marketing dollars to the Give for Good platform. If you've been with the Community Foundation for a while, you probably remember Link, which was our online database of nonprofits that was kind of tricky to use, to say the least, but the Give for Good platform is something that we're all familiar with and it works really well. Neon One is constantly making updates to the profiles and the systems to make it more user-friendly. So we're going to be marketing that year-round as a source for volunteer opportunities, in-kind needs, and nonprofit events. The events and the volunteer opportunities search pages are already live. We're going to be working on, after this Give for Good, the needs profile page. So when somebody calls the Community Foundation and they say, I'm looking to volunteer for an organization, where should I go? We're going to direct them to the volunteer page on the Give for Good website. Same with the in-kind donations and nonprofit events, and really making this a resource for our community. And also community and nonprofit data. We have a 990 search available on the Give for Good website. So if people visiting the website are interested in viewing any nonprofit 990s, those are available for free there. We also have our community counts report, which is commissioned by the Community Foundation each year, which is a data report on the Shreveport-Bossier community. Also the Natchitoches and the Ruston micro MSAs as well. We have all of that data stored there. So after Give for Good, really taking a look at your profile. This is something that we haven't talked about in the past because it wasn't really a need, because Give for Good was kind of dormant for most of the year. But your profiles will be frozen from April 19th up through May 4th. And then on May 5th, you will be able to edit your profile again. So transitioning your profile from Give for Good mode to year-round mode, if you want to think about it that way, it's going from the fundraising perspective to the informative perspective. So if you have somebody that's visiting the Give for Good website because they're looking to learn more about nonprofits in the community, then you want to make sure you have information up there about your programs, your results, and then also that you're driving them to the correct place on your website. So if you receive online donations through your website, you want to make sure that your links are updated so that if anybody does want to donate to your organization, that they're being directed to the right place for updated information. And so that way you don't have to think about logging into your Give for Good profile, weekly or monthly, or as much as you would update your own website or your social pages, because if they go there, they're going to be directed to the right place. Keep programs, events, and volunteer opportunities and needs up to date. Again, the needs is something entirely new this year. So that is if you have any in-kind needs. For example, if you're having a perishable goods drive, a non-perishable goods drive, a coat drive, if you are say you're looking for board members, or you have other needs like office supplies or things like that, you can put them there and donors can see them on your website, or on the Give for Good profile year round. And then again, like I said, profiles will be open for editing again after May 4th. And then when you register for Give for Good 2022 will be the time to swap it back into fundraising and Give for Good mode. All right, well, I'm gonna stay on for a few minutes longer if anybody has any one-on-one questions, and thanks you guys for sticking with us today, and let me know if you need anything.